Okay, so we'll be going through how to make an FXR fuel sender for a centerfill tank from this C-Choice 15471 universal fuel float and sender unit. I found that there's a couple of different ones. The one with the black plastic pivot for the arm is melted into this little section. It's not the one that I really like to use. I like to use the one that actually has the white plastic at the pivot section that has it bolted into the little angle piece. Alright, so take the sending unit in its entirety out of the package. It's a little tough sometimes. The plastic on everything is kind of hard to get off the wire. Be careful as to not break anything. The first order of business would be to take the center bolt out of the top fuel plate that bolts to the tank. That way you can take everything apart. The logo on the fuel plate points to the back of the bike. That's the only way the whole pattern will fit on the FXR tank. It only fits one way. And once you have it that way, everything will line up right. The gasket that comes with the kit works fine. The bolts, however, that come with the package are a coarse thread. They look a lot like the stock bolts, but they're not going to work in the tank unless you retap, which I wouldn't recommend. So best thing for you to do is to go to the dealership and get some new bolts with that sealing washer. So the center bolt for the sending unit that runs up through the top plate, I like to desolder and make it shorter so that you don't have to wrap it around the lower section of the fuel sender. You can make it short and make it look nice like this. For that, you will need a nice strong soldering gun. This one is dual voltage, 100 volt and 140 volt. Plenty strong enough to get everything liquefied. So the first position on the trigger is going to be 100 volts. Second position is 140 volts. Plenty hot enough to get the job done and make quick work of that solder connection. Alright, I pull the trigger all the way in for full power on the gun, touch it to that pressed on tab that the wire is connected to on the center bolt, wait for things to liquefy, and then once they do, twist and disconnect. So this is the aluminum piece that comes with the kit that we're going to copy the OEM sender lower section that holds the lower pivot arm. I'm going to take some measurements, going to do some notching and do some bending to get it to match up with the OEM. So for the first bend, I just held this up to the OEM arm and made a mark with a Sharpie, a little bit of notching with that hand hacksaw, and getting ready to bend. You can just bend this stuff by hand at this point. It's really easy. Here's the first bend matched up to the OEM. Here's the second bend, V-notched with a triangular file so that when we bend it down it's going to sit perpendicular to the top plate and hang straight down. Here's what the second bend looks like. Holding it up, matching up to the OEM bends. We look pretty close. You want to get as close as you can so that you know you don't have a problem with snaking it back into the tank when you're all done with it. Here's the float piece for the lower arm that I clipped off of the unbent arm in the kit. I'm going to slide these nuts off to get off the clipped section. They're just a friction nut, so just slide them off carefully. Here's the arm clipped and bent. Be careful as to pay attention that the wire is coming out of the bottom of the unit and that you bend it the right way, because I believe in this picture I actually bent it the wrong way. So you need to make sure you know which way it reads empty and full before you bend. Okay, I'd like to make a little angle iron piece out of some 3/4 inch aluminum angle that is going to bolt to the bottom of the arm here so that we can mount the sender arm to it. Not too much work. Just use the hacksaw and some files. Look at the holes that we're going to be mounting through on the lower sender arm. It's going to bolt right up to the bottom like this. Just drilling a couple of holes in the bracket to mount to the lower arm, to mount the pivot onto with these stainless bolts and serrated lock nuts. Sorry that I didn't list what size hardware that I use. If you've made it this far, you can figure that stuff out with what holes have been drilled and what kind of access that you have. I'm going to mark up a couple of holes here and drill and mount the lower pivot arm right here, and then get ready to solder and test out. Here's what the lower arm looks like with the 2 holes drilled to mount the lower pivot arm for the sender. I'm going to get that together, mount it up, and we'll check it out. This is what it looks like all mounted up with the stainless hardware, both on the lower arm and the stainless hardware to hold the sender pivot. One thing to note is to make sure that you cut the aluminum C-channel with the slots in it up high enough so that it's easier to snake the fuel sender into the tank. So in this picture we don't have the C-channel trimmed up as high as it should be to be able to snake it into the tank easy, or have those bolts cut down a little bit. But it's all soldered and ready to roll. Alright, got everything wired up, getting ready to test the new fuel sender, and it looks like everything functions as it's supposed to. Really dig these Intellitronics digital bar gauges that fit the FXR dash. They don't look super sensitive, so they're not going to jostle back and forth while you're riding or cornering and have it go up and down drastically and draw your eye to it. So that's always nice. Alright, thanks for watching, and good luck with your project.